Well, I'm joined by Dr Alex Allinson. Today, the report into Radio Manx Limited has come out. Literally, I haven't had a chance to even read the whole thing. But there's obviously massive interest already from the other media and presumably from Manx Radio. Can you just spell out the main recommendations that you're pushing for?
Certainly. I mean, this is the second of our reports, and this came about because of questions that are asked in the House of Keys and Tynwald about the financing of Manx Radio. This has come round, again and again every 4 years. What we've done is spend a lot of time talking to the BBC, talking to Manx Radio, and our key recommendations go across the board, really. We're looking at the advertising of Manx Radio.
Do you want them to stop taking it? Is that
well, our first report said that should be questioned, whether they should still have advertising, and there were accusations that they were selling it below cost and distorting the market. We've had the Treasury Audit Office look at their figures, and we can't find any reason to substantiate that. We don't think that they're selling it below price, but we do question how they use their advertising and where it's put, particularly in terms of some of the news programmes and some of those public service broadcast programmes that they're actually being paid for by the Manx government.
It's called a double whammy, isn't it? When they should be doing it and they have a sponsor on that programme.
Yeah, so we're saying that should be looked at, and we're asking for the Office of Fair Trading to look at the way they use advertising. We're also looking at the Treasury to again look at Broadcasting House, whether they should constantly be getting government money to upgrade that, or whether there might be a better solution, not necessarily cheaper, but a better solution to bring that down into the centre of Douglas or somewhere else.
Large extension. That was part of
the report details the amount of money that's already been spent on Broadcasting House, taxpayers' money, and the amount of money that still is to be spent. And we think that should be looked at again. I suppose the main part of the report deals with the relationship that the Isle of Man government have with the BBC. What the members of the report accepted was that there is a widespread feeling that Isle of Man taxpayers, the people who live on this island, are paying twice for public service broadcasting. They're paying for a BBC-TV licence, and their taxes are helping to pay for Manx Radio. And we think that disparity should be reconciled, because we've looked at other jurisdictions such as Jersey and Guernsey, where a lot more resources are put in there by the BBC to provide the service that we're currently paying twice for.
Did you ever manage to find that figure, what the BBC in Jersey and Guernsey puts into the radio, just so you can actually have a map, because it's not the same as the UK, is it, which have much bigger areas for local radio?
The report details some of the figures that we managed to gather. For instance, in Jersey, they employ dozens of staff. There is significant investment in Jersey. Saying that, the situation here was different, and in the past, everyone has gone along with Manx Radio being the be-all and end-all of public service broadcasting for the island. We're just questioning whether the BBC should pay their way and actually pay a fair share for providing that service here that other jurisdictions get from them in the first place.
And some of my critics say that it's partly BBC sounding these days, because on mandate you have BBC packages, there's access to this gentleman who now works sort of across various platforms, but is essentially paid for by the BBC to do local democracy.
There is certainly been an increasing involvement with the BBC. They are employing more staff on the Isle of Man to cover Isle of Man stories. One of the issues is that the editorial control is still based in England. And so if we're going to have proper public service broadcasting which reflects what happens on the island and is very locally based, some of that editorial control has to come back to this island as well.
So you see the BBC Radio Jersey, BBC Radio Guernsey model as a possibility?
We certainly see it as a possibility. We've discussed that with the BBC when they came over to give evidence to the committee, and that's something we highlight in the report.
They've got no money, of course, I tell you. So.
The BBC have had financial problems because of the pressure that's been put on them by the UK government. We would now like the Isle of Man government to put similar pressure on them to pay their fair share. So we give a range of options, and again, these are recommendations from the committee. They now have to go before Tynwald, they now have to go before government, and we're looking forward to a frank discussion on the floor of Tynwald about these recommendations in December.
There was a big thing about who should have input into running Manx Radio as the top position, and Alf Cannon sort of indicated when he gave his evidence he wanted not the person replaced at the minute done until you knew how you wanted to do it. Yep. Do you want to have more say on who runs Manx Radio, therefore have sort of
political control?
Yeah.
No, I think you need to be incredibly careful that public service broadcasting on the Isle of Man is free as far as possible from political control, but also from control of advertisers. And that's one of the inherent problems with a hybrid model that we've got at the moment, where the government pay into it, advertisers pay into it, and each of them will want some return from that. The whole role of public service broadcasting now is more important than ever. In an era of fake news, we need to trust what we hear on the radio, and that's why that editorial independence is so important.
You had been quite critical of the management to some degree in the previous ones. I don't know what you said this time. Have you said the same, that there needs to be a shake-up there or change of direction?
We've tried to be a critical friend. We've tried to look at some of the pressures Manx Radio are under in terms of staffing, in terms of the losses they've made, in terms of the building that they're working in, and actually presenting options for the future. And I think, and I hope that Manx Radio will take those in the spirit that they're laid, that these are not necessarily direct criticisms of Manx Radio or any individuals at Manx Radio. They're looking forward to a future and the future actual prospects of Manx Radio to make sure that we can carry on with really high quality public service broadcasting.
Because they were angling much more for the S4C model, which is the Welsh Channel 4, get public service money in, and they can, I think, take advertising, or best of both worlds. But they would stay in position. You honestly think there could be a point where they have to go and BBC or a new regime, a smaller, more tightly focused community radio station, I suppose?
We're presenting options, and as I said, these are only recommendations that then have to go for democratic scrutiny and democratic debate in Tynwald. But one of the options is that if the BBC cannot provide any more money, if they cannot provide a decent service to the people of the Isle of Man, whether the people of the Isle of Man should still have to pay a BBC licence fee.
That was one of your last, wasn't it, to say just forget it all and pull out? I mean, really? Could that possibly... I mean, wouldn't BBC be lost to the Isle of Man? You Strictly Come Dancing on Saturday night wouldn't be available? Is that what could happen?
That's true. We think that's an option. We don't think you should take any options off the table at this point. We want these options to be debated by the political representatives of the people of this island. Because if it is that people are unhappy with the service that they're getting, that they think that they're paying twice, we want to question that. And that's certainly an option that we've explored by contacting the UK government and saying, what would happen if the Isle of Man government wanted to go this way?
Yeah, and I had to hold my hand on this last one, this question, because it's something that I've thought of, is that can other people get hold of public service broadcasting money, i.e. government money that goes straight to Manx Radio? I mean, we would love it here. We would love to produce programmes. I've offered to Manx Radio, they don't want me to do programmes, that's fine. But, is there a better way that the money could be used, I suppose?
One of the interesting things is that while we've been doing this report, also the communications bill has been going through Tynwald as well. And what the communications bill does is actually put Manx Radio on a statutory basis as being the pure provider of public service broadcasting for the island. One of the things we want to come out of this report is to open the eyes of the public and also to parliamentarians so they can feed into the communications bill, produce amendments to it if they want, to actually make sure we get what we need for this island, which is decent, locally produced, locally accountable news and current affairs broadcasting, which also reflects the culture and heritage of the island.
When's this likely to be before Tynwald, and what are you expecting?
The committee's report is laid before November Tynwald, and we're hoping that it can be discussed as a whole with the first report as well in December.